Hey, Johnny.
How about it, Mike?
Checking off another stop on the SEC Stadium tour.
I'm loving today, man.
Yeah, we've had a great time at the Dawg Nation tailgate down there. I'd confess I'm toting a little buzz right now. We're out in front of the Darrell K Royal Texas Memorial Stadium.
Downtown Austin, Texas.
Yeah, it's very urban kind of campus and stuff. Good people. We've had a good time. Yeah. Friendly people. People picking on us with rivalry type talk, but
as you would expect,
in a friendly way, same as we do
absolutely.
them. Now, Johnny, help me on the history a little bit. I know I was lucky enough not to bring my dad up again, but I was lucky enough to be not here, but in Dallas in '83 when we played Texas and won.
Yep.
But that's the only time we've beaten them.
I'm glad you brought up Dallas, Mike. That 1983 Cotton Bowl. We're going to show you a few clips from that game. As Mike said, we played Texas only 5 times, so very little history between the two schools. Only win for the Dogs 1983 season would have been 1984 when we played in that Cotton Bowl. 10-9 was the final. Georgia scored late on a John Lastinger run and dive at the pylon, and then held on and ran the clock out on Texas. And there's a famous line, you're going to hear this again from my friend Angela Benton, who was in the Redcoat marching band on the field that day. But as they were leaving, and now the legend is, what time is it in Texas? 10-9. So, Mike, we want to see. I haven't seen a win here against Texas, so I'm hoping Georgia shows up big time today.
Absolutely. Some other interesting history you picked up, Johnny. We mirror each other's programs in many ways.
It is kind of incredible, Mike.
Talk about Heisman and talk about national championships.
So the two schools, pretty amazing. Both schools have 4 national titles. And we're going to show you some scenes, a really historic game in college football history from 1969. That was at the time billed the game of the century between Arkansas and Texas. Texas came out on top, won that natty. Won the next year in 1970. Darrell Royal's the coach, hence he's got a name on the stadium, right? Georgia, of course, has got 4 national championships. There were some gaps for both schools between some of their wins, so that we have that in common. And there's also two Heisman Trophy winners from each school, Ricky Williams and the great Earl Campbell from Texas, and of course Frank Sinkwich and Herschel Walker from Georgia. So we grew up watching Earl run over people in college and in the NFL. You'll see one of his greatest runs too in the NFL in this episode.
I'm going to try and find some footage, Johnny, of a story my older brother Dennis told me. It sounds like Paul Bunyan, but Dennis claimed that Earl ran into Bevo and knocked him back, almost knocked him over.
Yeah.
I think to this day in 1991, I am the only one that ever knocked Bevo down.
I do hope that we leave here with a victory. There's a lot on the line today. A lot of people are talking in advance that
Texas is undefeated, ranked number 1.
Yep.
We spoiled that national championship for them. So here we are again.
With
all these years later, Texas ranked number 1, Georgia at 5. We got a chance to not knock them out of that for sure, but definitely put a blemish on that regular season record and put Georgia back up in top of the polls and give us some confidence going for the rest of the season.
Yep. Is there anything else you'd say about our interview for this episode to plug her in advance, Johnny?
Well, I would just say, I think the thing that Angela and I went up talking a lot about was, could you possibly imagine if you bleed red and black, if your heart beats a little extra beat, if maybe a tear streams down your cheek, when the trumpeter plays in the pregame, then how could you possibly imagine a game day in Athens, Georgia without our band? And I think we probably do maybe take that for granted.
Yeah.
I mean, all of the work that those guys put into it. And so Angela's got a good story about 1983 and some instrument upgrades and some money that was rolling into our athletic department because of the exploits of one Herschel Walker.
Absolutely.
So, just grateful for what they do and just how they just add to the experience of Georgia game day and
and bring the spirit.
Absolutely. I've got a great friend, Angela Benton, who was at the Cotton Bowl in 1983. A member of the Redcoat Band. Remind me of the years that you marched, Angela.
I marched fall of 82 and fall of 83.
So 2 great years in Georgia history.
One Sugar Bowl, one Cotton Bowl.
So you guys got an instrument upgrade, right, in 1983?
Yeah, so that
How did
year,
that come to be?
So prior to that and through high school and the first year I was at Georgia, we marched white fiberglass sousaphones. I was on the tuba line.
Okay.
So I played sousaphone.
Small person with a big instrument.
Yeah, I was the shortest on the line for sure. But we had fiberglass, white fiberglass, and they weigh about 26 pounds. The university made a lot of money in the 3 years that Herschel was there.
Right.
Athletic department was really supportive of the band, and they upgraded the sousaphone section to silver-plated brass.
Which is nice, but it came at a cost to you, right?
54 pounds.
Yeah, almost
And
twice as heavy.
And a velvet lined case that went with it.
Yeah.
So,
I've talked to like some of the Spike Squad and the Paint Squad, and those guys really don't get a lot of benefit. They show up early and they stay late, and the band probably goes through the same thing. You guys don't have roadies to tote that stuff around, right?
No.
So you're toting that instrument all
and
over
so
the place.
to yank that thing up in the case, onto the equipment truck was, no small feat for a little short person.
And I think I remember you telling me specifically about the Cotton Bowl game. The bus didn't do you guys any favors that day?
No, they let us off, I don't know, like a quarter of a mile from the stadium. And I was so short. I mean, it was difficult. We had to take it in the case. They wouldn't let us take it out of the case, because if I could have just worn it, I could have just walked.
Right.
But in the case, I mean, for me, it was like one step. And I really thought I was going to miss pregame. Like, I'm not going to make it. And so the guy, Chris Lyer, the greatest guy, 6'8", marched next to me, and he took his all the way into the stadium, hanging back, and got me.
Cool. Well, you sent me some footage from the Cotton Bowl that day, so some point in this, we'll probably have that over the top of us talking.
Yeah.
You'll get to see some of the Redcoat Band from 1983. Yeah. Do you happen to remember anything that you guys played that day? Was there anything popular from the time, or was it more, kind of band songs? Or
No, I mean, it was kind of like show tunes, I think, is what we were playing.
Okay. Yeah.
And so, yeah, in the clip, I had no idea that clip even existed until we started looking, and I started looking at it, and had no idea.
And you found yourself in the stands on the
found
TV broadcast, on the field?
No, I found myself on the field. Yeah, they showed
Okay.
the clip, and I mean, like, I'm
right
focused.
there.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
cool.
I guess they figured out, look, there's a girl down
41
there.
years later, you find out you
famous,
were on TV, and you didn't even realize they
because
zoomed right in.
we didn't have any VCRs or anything like that. Nobody recorded it.
Didn't even think about that. So if you didn't see it, you just missed it, right?
Yeah, if you weren't live, and my parents didn't know to watch it. So.
Well, let me ask you. So, I mean, the game, I went back and watched. I mean, I remember the game, but I had to go back and kind of look at it to refresh my memory.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a defensive struggle. I think the only modern game I could think of to compare it to would be when Georgia and Clemson played up in Charlotte maybe 3 years ago now, 3, 4, whatever that was. And I think Georgia won that one maybe 13-3 or something. Defensive struggle. Same thing happened in 1983. 4 turnovers Texas had, dropping the ball, throwing interceptions. And it came down to Georgia got the ball late, and why don't you finish the story? How did that game end?
Well, to set it up a little bit, like, where's the fan base brain at the time?
Yeah.
We'd had 3 years of Herschel.
Right.
And then this is our first year, no Herschel.
Good point.
And
No
but we
Buck
still
Bellew.
had no Buck Bellew. But I mean, we still had Terry Hogue.
Yes.
And some of those junkyard
made a great
dogs
play in
are
that game.
still there. There's several great plays in that game. But we also had Kevin Butler. And we thought, I mean, Kevin was bulletproof.
Absolutely.
I mean, if he was going to
But not
kick,
that day, right?
Yeah, if he was going to kick, we thought he's made it. And so he missed two field goals.
And the Texas kicker missed 2.
Yeah,
which
but I
helped
mean,
save it.
it's fourth quarter. There's, 4.5 minutes left. And we punt, and, they signal for a fair catch, but don't catch it.
Yep.
We're right down there in our territory, red zone, and 3 plays later we punch in, and then but there's like 3.5 minutes left.
Right.
And so now you're biting your nails because you know how it happens, and you down the whole game. You come with this
score,
great thing,
but you
and
leave
then,
the other guy time to come back too.
and the defense, lets down,
Right.
and they give it up.
Yeah.
And we've seen it so many times. Georgia does
Saw it
that.
at Alabama.
Saw it with Alabama, exactly. Yeah. And so, we're just holding our breath for that whole last, possession by Texas, and they punt. And it comes down to, we have to make a first down.
Right.
We have to make a first down, or they're going to get the ball back. And, when they made that first down, I mean, it wasn't the national championship and it wasn't an SEC championship, but it felt big.
No, yeah.
It felt big.
Well, that was the good point you make. Yeah, when Georgia got the ball back, I mean, they had struggled to run the ball. I mean, they just struggled on offense, but they were able to piece together.
Yeah.
Enough running game in that last drive to just run the clock out on Texas and break their hearts. They would have been the national champions had they won that game.
That's right.
Georgia upset them. Nebraska lost in the Orange Bowl, I think it was, and I think Miami wound up being the national champion. And so Georgia ruined what seemed to be a sure national title for Texas. And of all things, here we are in 2024. And Texas is ranked number one
again,
and they're looking to do that. And who is standing in their way but the Georgia Bulldogs?
Let's do it again.
Michael Hahn and I are going to be out there in Austin, and I can't wait for it. I think the Dogs are going to have a little something for these Longhorns again. They're counting us out, which is what I always like when the Dogs are playing. When they're counting us out, that's a good spot to be in.
But I will tell you, it's like on the ride home from that Texas game, just periodically somebody would just, it's a long ride home on that bus. Somebody would say, would call out, what time is it?
Oh, yeah, I forgot that. Yeah, so tell them the classic line from the Cotton Bowl.
It's 10-9.
10-9, the
and
final
if anybody
score.
ever asks you what time is it in Texas, you tell them it's always 10-9 in Texas.
We
Absolutely.
love sitting close to the band, don't we, Johnny?
Oh, man, you'll remember last year, Mike, you might even want to show if you can show an image of, I think, what's his name, Adonis?
Yeah, Adonis gave you a memento.
Was hitting that bass drum in Knoxville last year, and I was coming off an injury. I had been on the injured list, and, man, I got emotional when Adonis handed me that thing.
You still got that trophy, don't you?
I will never part with Adonis's bass booming stick that he gave me in Knoxville. It's on a shelf at the house.
Well, we're going to pull weight for the Dog Nation in here today. Proud to have Dog Tracks up here checking this one off the list.
Yeah.
Johnny, go Dogs. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs!
Bring it.
You're trying to baptize me into the Longhorn Nation or something?
Hey, you never know.
You're going to dump me in tequila for that to happen.
Johnny, what's going on here?
Mike, I wish I knew, but the lady was very friendly. She tried to give me a Texas cup, which I refused, of course. And I'm going to go with the standard cup, which I will insert here. I will begin my order. Oh, I have to
Position your
my
face.
hat and glasses and take a selfie.
Got to choose his drink, Johnny.
Well, you got to help me, Mike. I know you're the tequila aficionado.
Well, they're all the same. I'd probably go for that Reposado
This
with
one?
the,
We'll choose that. Sure. How do I do that?
No, thank you. You
right.
don't need to leave a tip
I'll
for
do
the
that.
Austin team.
And I'll pay in 4. Please insert my card. Behind you. Well, Mike, you normally kick a lot of these things off. I'll give it a shot. I told you before we turned this camera on that I really wasn't sure what to say. Obviously, excited to see Georgia get the win, reset the SEC. Talked about Tennessee with a loss. Georgia's got a loss. LSU, I think, has a loss. Alabama picked up their second today, so things seem a little bit better in our world. You know, flying home. We sure didn't want to go home a loser. Great first half. Big struggle in the second half. A lot of weird calls. You know, we're not going to get into that too much because we hadn't seen replays, but really looked like Georgia was on the wrong end of some home cooking a few times tonight.
I'm looking forward to reviewing those replays tomorrow while we're editing this down and trying to get an episode out of Dog Tracks. Again, a victory.
Yeah.
And Johnny, let me say, I've seen Georgia play Texas twice in my life, both victories. I'm glad I didn't go to that Sugar Bowl that we had in between.
Right.
But in summation, though, Johnny, it's a nice stadium.
Great stadium. Great in-game experience. I got to tell you, there's some things that, the Georgia people probably looked at over here. I mean, there was a drone. I don't know if you saw that on the TV feed, but like in the fourth quarter, the drone thing that outlined, the Texas Longhorn and just all the images. That was pretty cool.
I got some footage of it. We'll show it to you. It was fantastic.
So, great in-game experience. Of course, and we got to give a shout out to the Dog fans. I mean, Mike, they were loud.
They were here.
The Texas people were on their sitting on their seats there in the first half, and even in the second half. There were times where Georgia was really making a lot of noise, and I think it made, to the point, I think it could have had some impact on Texas's offense. They're trying to run us off. It's not going to take but another second. So, but anyway, Mike, final word before we close out this episode here in Austin, Texas.
Feel a lot better going home from this stadium than we did the last road visit we made.
That's right.
And
got a week off. Try to get well for the Gators, right?
Yeah, I'm concerned that we got some people that are going to be suspended, but
that's 2 weeks from now. We're going to savor this win tonight.
And we'll get some other folks up. All right.
That's right.
Go Dogs.